This is Beers, and Battlestar Galactica.
I'm here with Dan and Jesse of Hop Dogma, head brewer and the owner. We're here at the brand new location that they have in Half Moon Bay, and just get a little description of what you guys are doing and what you guys got, and who you are.
We recently relocated here. We opened originally in 2013, and we had to move we reopened this facility in June 1st, the tap room. But it's been about 4 months since we opened our new brewing facility. So really excited. It's a huge step for us as far as just being in more control of what we're doing as a brewery, and we're really proud of the beers that we're starting to put out here. We're having the control that we've always wanted and the quality assurance that we demand of our product. So it's really exciting to kind of have gotten through that storm and gotten on track here.
Yeah, this is definitely good.
Yeah, and as big of a move as it was, and it wasn't easy. It's really, really exciting that we really do have kind of a fresh start now.
Mm-hmm.
We learned a lot at the old location. We learned what we hated, what worked, what was great, what we liked.
Yeah.
But it was also a blank slate for us here, so we really got to reinvent ourselves a bit and create a space that worked really, really well for us.
Yeah, you guys are doing a killer job, without a doubt.
It's kind of a blessing and a curse. Having to move is the curse, but honestly, in a lot of ways, we're embracing the fresh start.
That's awesome, man. So I'm sure you get this question all the time, but where does the name come from? Hop Dogma. It's definitely a unique name.
Back, I was a teacher before I started Hop Dogma, and went on a beer research tour with some friends of mine, and yeah, we were at Anderson Valley Brewing Company, and just kind of kicking around names and ideas. And at that stage in time, it was just kind of a fun idea. We had every intention of doing something with it, but none of us kind of believed that we really would at that point. But we were sitting down. We were with like Fal Allen and he's the brewmaster at Anderson Valley, and kicking around names and talking about stuff. And actually, Chris, our graphic designer, he kind of put two things together and just said Hop Dogma, and we all kind of liked the sound of it. And knew immediately everyone was just going to eventually refer to it as Dogma, but we liked that, and we didn't really decide on it then and there, but it stuck. And as we move forward with just all the legal proceedings, if you will, with everything, we were like, I like it. Let's go with it, and the name stuck. So
that's great. Well, you mentioned that your past career, you're in education. Jesse, what were you doing before you dove into the beer industry?
Also in education.
Oh, really?
Well, I was fairly fresh out of college.
We left education to do something more meaningful with our lives.
I was fairly fresh out of college. I have a psychology background.
Okay.
I was initially kind of working in psych labs and research oriented, had a developmental psych background. I wound up working with preschool students.
Okay.
So I actually taught preschool for a while. Among some other things, I was bartending a lot, craft beer tending, and home brewing a whole hell of a lot. I met Dan shortly after he had started the planning process for Hop Dogma, mostly through homebrewing circles, and homebrewing clubs, and things like that. But I was still working full time as a preschool teacher at that time. So yeah, we've dramatic career changes.
just a little bit.
Yeah, I had left that thinking I would probably go back to school and get maybe a master's in education or something like that, and wound up brewing a lot of beer. So
Well, you're giving your education, but it's just through the glass. You know?
it's a little different. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it must have been quite a leap, to change careers just like that, especially both of you guys being educators. How was that? How was that feeling in that moment when you had to jump careers and into the unknown, to the abyss?
I think Dan had a lot more, to risk
To
with
lose.
all that, to lose with all that.
Yeah.
He was starting a family and all that. Through that, for me, it was just a really good time in my life. I was still, figuring out what I wanted to do. It's still just very flexible. For Dan, it was a big change.
Oh yeah, I mean I was a special ed teacher and then a science and social studies teacher, and all in middle school and public schools, local public schools, and honestly, I had a love for brewing beer, and this honestly was just a romantic idea of as far as. We'd be open the weekends, and it'll be a hobby business, but it demanded more of myself, and it was scary. It was losing your health insurance and all these things that were very stable with my job before, but we started a little homebrew club, and I met Jesse through there, and immediately picked up on the talents and how much he could help us here, and it was an obvious choice to try and bring someone on board that could help us, because we were honestly sinking at the time. I mean, it was just so much work and trying to keep up while maintaining this other job, and obviously ended up leaving that job to pursue this full time, but Hop Dogma has been a story of. We've had incredibly good luck. We've had incredibly bad luck. We've always persevered, and and there's certain things that I feel extremely lucky, to have kind of manifested over the time. I mean, it's honestly, picking up some really good people who care about what they're doing, and like Jesse, and we're survivors. I mean, we really are. We've been through more challenges than you would believe.
Well, from a customer standpoint, the beer speaks.
Thank you.
And the quality of the beer speaks. The culture that you guys are trying to put out is what grabs the people into loving what you guys are doing. So
Thank you.
There could be all this crap that goes on behind the scenes, that people may never even know. But it's what's happening in that glass and what people are drinking and enjoying what really matters.
That's a lot about.
You guys are killing it.
It's a lot about what Hop Dogma is about too. Like when I think of, the business and what we do, it's like, yes, we make beer. People like beer, but so much of what we've seen happen in our tap room, in our community, is a big part of what's really exciting. Like I'm a brewer. I see that as my main job. But what's really exciting is we're also like facilitators of like this awesome space and community, and it's one thing that's really exciting is just to see, people from our community and beer enthusiasts come to us and have this wonderful space that they get to just, socialize, be free, relax, and we're so inclusive of like tourists and beer enthusiasts and the locals that live down the street, the dogs, the families, that it's everything. It's just such a cool place, and they're all here, because of this awesome space we've created, and
it's a very inclusive.
Hopefully because of the good beer too, but it's more than just beer. It's more than just the beer. Beer builds community, which is really cool.
I agree with that. But this next question is for you, Jesse. How big was your system that you guys were working on in your original location?
The old one was 3.5 barrel.
3.5 barrel, and you have a
that
10?
was we now have a 10. When I started, like Dan and his original partner, who's still pretty involved here, Ethan, when they started. I think by the time you guys were about 6 months old, I came on board, and I think you guys were already on like your second or third little thing in that shitty ass back garage.
Yeah, we were pretty foolish. I mean, we started with I mean, I don't know, it's a one barrel system essentially.
It really was. It was really glorified home brewing. So
Yeah.
in that sense, it was really cool to just jump right in and get your hands dirty and understand how things work. But as things scale up, it becomes really not so much home brewing and a very different thing.
That actually leads you to my next
Yeah.
question. And can you kind of describe the difficulties of scaling up your recipes that you once were having on a 3-barrel batch system to that 10-barrel? How difficult is that to do?
We really haven't found that scaling too challenging. I know, like, we had contracted before at other breweries to do much larger scale. Demand was so high, there's just no way. So we had contracts set up and things like that. So a lot of those breweries we worked with, we already had to scale up to like the 30-barrel or 60-barrel even batch size. So with the help of their brewers and enough communication, we could figure out how to scale our recipes. On this system, we pretty much knew what to do. It wasn't. I mean, we had kind of a target in mind. We had worked on so many different sizes. We had worked at other breweries. We've really brewed our beer on so many different systems. Even though they weren't in our own brewery, we really learned just how every system works a little differently. We learn a lot of averages. We get a lot of numbers.
Yeah, and a lot of that's. Jesse is he's very good at. The anticipating, the number crunching and everything that goes into.
And being really frustrated when that doesn't add up like it does on paper, which is a lot in brewing.
But I mean, it's exactly what he said. I mean, we've brewed on so many different brewing systems, different styles of brewing systems. Like I said, I mean, we are survivors, and we've been through the gamut of that. But it helps to. I mean. Honestly, he's so good at crunching the numbers and kind of just giving us a anticipation of what to expect. So, and we're most of the time we're pretty darn close. So it gets us in the ballpark, and then we fine tune from there.
Yeah. And this industry too is just really an open book. All the other breweries we have friends that work at and all that, they've been super helpful too. Awesome. Like when we were doing this whole build out, we're asking questions of folks that we know that have similar size systems, this and that. What are your efficiencies? What are your expectations and yields and things like that? What works for you? And everyone's an open book. It's really great. So we had a little bit of help on kind of targeting where we're going to go there. When we were scaling our recipes, but scaling the recipes hasn't been too challenging. It took a few weeks, to really
just
dial
kind of honing
down
those recipes that. Those core beers that you guys have had.
There were a few.
And keeping, that same taste and the same, style along the lines.
And that's been a challenge already for us since we've brewed all over the place. But on this spot, we just need to acknowledge this system's going to make slightly different beer, and that's okay. It's not going to be necessarily better or worse, but it's going to be. We're gonna dial in this system, and I feel like we really already have to make exactly what we're expecting out of it.
And we're funny. I mean, like. We'll work a exhausting day where we by the time we leave we're if you looked at us you could tell that we're just over it. We just want to go home and like relax. But within an hour or two, we're texting each other, being like, "Hey, do you think that issue was this or that?" I mean, we're always thinking about it. That's awesome. And you can't help it. I mean, but we've. That's part of the fun too. I mean, with brewing, it's problem solving, and we've had a few issues, but we've kind of like nipped them in the bud. It's like I said, it's part of the fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I love the MacGyver aspect of brewing sometimes. Where it's like
I call him he's my Swiss Army knife.
You're on like a time crunch, something isn't working right. You're trying a new technique, whatever it might be, and you've got hours invested in it, and you got to figure out something really quick to like what's going on and why, and then it's just like, well, let's put this fitting with this fitting and flip that valve with this. I just love that aspect. That's the fun of it for me.
That's awesome that you guys are found each other and been able to make this company work.
It's a lot of fun.
So I just have a quick question on a unique beer, something that you brewed that you're very proud of, and maybe you can share a quick story about how a name got built, or how a beer became what it was.
There you go.
How a name got built? Oh, well, I guess I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, Silly Gimmick has to be one of the things that one of the names and
It gets a lot of attention.
artwork that gets the most attention. And when at that time period in the story of Hop Dogma, it was kind of like we'd made a few hazy Northeast style beers at that point, but there at that time there was a lot of backlash from breweries and stuff, from not wanting to make the hazies or the ones that were full 100% in it to win it.
Yeah.
So you kind of had this like the faction starting to happen. This is starting to kind of people were arguing about it and whatnot, and we just thought it. I don't know, for some reason the name Silly Gimmick like popped into my head. I think it was like I said something like it's not just a silly gimmick, and
It tastes good.
yeah, I don't remember exactly how it became the official name, but I want to say someone said that would be a great name, and I said that would be a great name because that is the new name. and
I love the irony in it because it's a cool beer. I mean, we're
It really
proud of
is
it,
a
and
different beer.
Particularly when it was in cans. It's not currently canned, but it was our best-selling can, and
Yeah.
it's like, and when it's on our taproom menu, it sells out like in a week.
What is that at ABV wise? It's up there, right?
8.2.
It's low
Double,
eights,
yeah,
8.2,
it's double.
8.3 usually.
We
yeah.
had it, Dale, shout out to Dale. We had that over at our bar in the East Bay, and that beer just went off.
It sells in 2 seconds here, and, and anyone who orders it has to, with the name, there's a little bit of irony. It's like, I'm ordering the Silly Gimmick, but now this is that beer's been around for 2 years, 3 years at least.
Yeah.
And now there's way more Silly Gimmicks out there. That hazy beer is a normal thing now, but yeah.
That's cool, man.
I had gone away. I've always thought, the names are a really hard thing for us to come up. I'm terrible at it. I'm not creative at all, and I'm not. So I'm.
What do you mean? Hey, you make the beer.
But no, I mean,
That's
but a lot,
creative
most of the
aspect. Yeah,
naming
you're
and
so
most
creative.
of the naming and a lot of the recipe designs and ideas are Dan's, and I'm not particularly good at coming up with names, and they'll be like, we'll be down to the crunch where we're going to be packaging this beer. What the hell are we going to call it? And a lot of it just comes from what music Dan's listening to in the brewery to like what a customer said in the tap room.
Yeah,
and
we the names are funny. I mean, Kyle's not here right now, but Kyle's really good at just. He's got a lot of goofy little jokes and sayings that he intrinsically. He just naturally does, and it's stuff like that. We just In the brewery, there's a lot of hard work happening. There's a lot of kind of hurry up and wait moments, and we just bounce ideas off each other. And it's funny because someone just always tends to say something stupid and funny, and you kind of just branch off of that, and yeah, I mean, it can be a very challenging issue. I can't tell you how many times we've had a finished beer. It's kegged. It's ready to go. We're super proud of it, and we're like, "What are we calling this thing?"
And I'm just frustrated because I want to put keg colors on it before these pallets get stacked. I'm just like, come on, guys, before we stack these pallets, what is the name of this beer?
Dale comes up with a lot of good names too. But usually too inappropriate. Yeah.
Years ago, I had always kind of giggled at some of the Hop Dogma names were just getting so absurd and outlandish, and it was just like I was spending a lot of I used to spend a lot of time in the tap room beer tending, and we'd have this chalkboard where we'd have to write these names up on the board that are like a mile long, and it was just the worst.
And I took pride in that
because I think Dan thought it was
funny.
the funniest thing on earth because he didn't have to write on the damn chalkboard. But I remember I'd just be like, seriously, you're gonna name the beer that? And I just like shake my head. And we had our flagship beer, which is known as the Alpha Dank IPA. Now, well, the full name of the Alpha Dank is
Say it.
It's the Alpha Dankopotamus, which I've learned to love and adore. But I remember we had brewed the first incarnation of that beer at the old location, no name in mind yet, and I had taken a week-long vacation, and I had left, and upon my return, I remember walking in to check on the beers and things that are going on, and on the side of the fermenters, we have little, brewing stats and logs, about each batch in there, and oftentimes the name spot is just left blank, until a name comes, And I remember just walking in, and it was the first fermenter as I walked into the brewery, and I'm looking at it, and it literally says Alpha Dankopotamus. And I'm just like, I give up. It's like, this is
No, you said, he was like, are we seriously calling it that? And I said, yes.
and I'm
That's what I love about
and it's just kind of become a thing. We just don't take ourselves that seriously, I guess.
Yeah, except for the beer.
Except for the beer.
Like that's something that I really appreciate. You, especially coming from a group of guys that are running a brewery that has a big buzz going on right now. You're able to just, be loving what you're doing, producing good beer, having a good time doing it, and that's it. You don't have this like secret formula. I mean, there might be the secret formula out there, but it really just seems like from an outside perspective that it's just you guys are just enjoying your job and just producing great beer. And
we do. I mean, we have a lot of fun. Honestly, we're super blessed to do this for a living. I mean, it's things aren't perfect. I mean, sometimes the days are really hard. They're long. Like, there's always issues, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're so blessed to do it, and we've been able to do a lot of good with it too. I mean, we've been extremely charitable with this local organization, schools, and we did a huge benefit for the Campfire Relief Fund. It's been a lot of fun. We take so much pride in what we're doing, and making beer. It's something that we all talk about all the time. But I truly believe that beer has this remarkable ability of making strangers start a conversation. I've seen numerous friendships and relationships start in our tap room. That's when it's really cool to see when you, like, sometimes when you're working really hard and you're tired and everything, you forget these things, but then you walk by on a busy night and you see it, and it's all worth it instantly.
Right.
And that part is so cool. I mean, never gets old.
You guys just did a gold medal or a medal in Southern California at one of the beer festivals. I mean, a brewery from Northern California coming down to SoCal. And
that's, I mean, technically speaking, I think that's the beer we're probably the most proud of. I mean, what was it? It's our Pilsner.
Okay.
Old color, yeah.
Yep.
We've this beer is, it's changed and it's morphed over the years, but for the most part, I mean, we're extremely proud of how we have developed that beer, and we've become total loggerheads over the years. I mean, we've really grown this affinity and passion for them, and I said this to a relative the other day that was saying about, he was like, you guys seem to win a lot of awards and you do really well in these competitions, and it got me thinking about it. And one of the things I can say about now versus older Hop Dogma is that we used to, when there's a big competition, it's like we would take all these little extra precautions with the beer, whether it be, purging this extra space in the line or this or that. We would do all these things and we would overthink it, if you will. But what's happened now is like we always do that stuff with every beer, and it's just become a part of how we operate. And I think that's really been a integral part of just like the improvement that we've had with just our beer in general.
Well, I mean, that's a great kind of culture and mindset to have, that you guys are treating every beer that you make like it's a competition beer.
Right.
You're giving the beer that's in the glass to your customers like it's going to be a beer judge, Cicerone, whatever, master. But I mean, not everyone is like that. Let's give everybody the greatest beer that we can give.
Yeah, it's not that we didn't care before, but it's just funny. I mean, it's just the evolution of us and everything. I mean, we've just naturally become. We've found it to be more efficient and better as old just to be like that.
And we've come up with more strategies and practices that that are way more efficient, that really work. And instead of it being an extra step or painful and challenging and lengthy to do, we just incorporate it into a really efficient way. So we do kind of joke, Dan likes to say, work harder, not smarter, because that's kind of how we've evolved. But I mean, in a sense, we've actually done just the opposite now. I really feel like we've gotten to the point where we're really efficient now.
Yeah.
We've really thought we've done enough hard working. Let's do it right and figure out. And a lot of that was learning. I mean, coming from a homebrewing background, I knew a lot about beer. I cared a lot about beer, but it just doesn't translate to this scale all the time, and it doesn't translate to a lot of aspects of the beer industry. And unfortunately, we've had to learn that, and I feel like we've learned that really quickly. We've had some great mentors in the industry and all that have helped, but we really have had to figure out a lot for ourselves. And part of that's really cool because you really get to grow and figure out what works and what doesn't. And particularly on that old system, we know exactly what we don't want to do anymore. And that's really evident on the new system. It's like our little custom built,
And it's trusting ourselves, I would say, is just such a huge part of it now, because before we ever brew another beer, I mean, we always have this little conversation, like, should we do anything differently here? Should we what'd you think about this? What'd you think about that? And just smelling a beer, tasting a beer, asking yourself, is there anything that you want to improve about this one? And we've gotten really good at being honest with ourselves about it, and it's helped the final product immensely. I truly believe,
Consistency is also about being honest about what doesn't work or what we goofed up on or flaws or
Well, you don't want to sell anything that's not up to the Hop Dogma.
Yeah, and inevitably you have to make that decision every now and again too. And we've also done experiments that we're just like, honestly, this could be a terrible, terrible idea. But what's cool about our size and our scale and kind of our model is we are adventurous and we do silly, wacky things, even though they might wind up horrible. And we just did our gin barrel pale ale over there at Spent. We got literally, as we're doing this, goes against everything that we think is a good idea, in hoppy beer practice. It's like, we're gonna expose this to oxygen. I mean, we did our best to mitigate all these problems, but now you're putting something into oak, putting something into this. It was a learning experience. We had no idea what it was going to be.
Range? How long was it in the gin?
Only a week. Only a week.
That's great. I mean, I've had some IPAs that have just been in barrels for.
I mean, as far as I've never really had a barrel aged hoppy beer that I've thought was a good idea, but we went ahead and did it and created something, and we were completely ready to just say, if this tastes terrible, we're just gonna put it down the drain. We don't want to release it. But it turned out to be a really cool thing.
Shout out to Cooperage. I mean, because we at the Track 7 Invitational 2 years ago, or they had a really just wonderful, gin barrel aged IPA, and I mean it really was spectacular, and it was just one of those things. I'm like, I want to try that.
We have no idea how they did it, and
so that was your first.
No, we were just like, well, this actually worked, but that was definitely the inspiration.
Well, you saying that if a beer that you brew isn't going to come up to Hop Dogma standard and you're going to dump it, I mean, from a customer standpoint, that is golden to my ears, because I don't want to drink a Hop Dogma beer where I've had all these high expectations and then I drink something that might not be up to the quality. You guys are willing to dump a beer just so that the customers are able to have a consistent Hop Dogma.
I think
style.
Most quality breweries are more than happy to dump. I mean, even Vinny at Russian River has said, how many batches is he willing to dump a year, and they do. And
we made the call today. I mean, it was like we had a beer that we
timely discussion here.
No, it just wasn't. It wasn't a bad beer. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't up to our standards, and it's not something that we talked about it for a few minutes, and we just the logical decision was basically like, look, this just isn't something that we're proud of. And before, in the past, we didn't always have the option to do this. Right now, we're in a better position, and we just honestly just looked at each other, said, this is my vote, what's yours, and that's my vote too. And it sucks. It's not something you want to do.
Especially from an owner. It must take a lot
Yeah,
to
it's not
actually
something you want to do, but you also have to you have to accept the fact that this is brewing and these things do happen, and so it's but it's important to have that standard of quality at the end of the day, where you have a product that you're proud of. Do you really want this representing you? And it's just not. It was a simple decision.
I think it's more important now than ever too, because being a small brewery in this market right now and with the competition, it's just like the consumers are getting a lot wiser to bad beer. There's so many choices out there, and there's just no room for bad beer anymore. And I think for years you could get away with it, and a lot of breweries did. But now it's not worth it. It's just not. I mean, if you're going to survive in such a competitive market now with a much wiser consumer, and we've developed a brand that's got a reputation now and all that, it's not worth it.
And it's days like these where I'm so proud that we went with like a high-end 10-barrel system, because it's really this perfect size of where you can be a little experimental, you can take some chances. But it's not the end of the world if something goes wrong, and for us, we can make enough beer that it satisfies our tap room and a little bit beyond the tap room. But we can be pretty confident that most of what people are tasting out and about in here is very fresh. So that's why I think the 10-barrel model is starting to kind of take hold a little bit. Yeah, and it's worked out really well for us.
That's awesome. Well, we're kind of winding down to the end of the interview. Could you guys highlight and tell the people what's going on with Hop Dogma, some new events, new beers, something that they could come out, hopefully see you guys out in the wild right now. Help if you look directly at the camera and tell people where you're at.
What's new and wild, Dan?
All right.
That's the one.
This one. We're gonna be up in Sacramento, one of our favorite places to go this weekend. So we're doing two events up there at Drake's at the Barn at IPA on the Royal Rumble on the river there, and we're doing another event or two up there, and we are constantly working on new expansions and things in house here, but we have a new sour program that we've been fostering, and we have a Solera tank that we've been dedicating to wild sour spontaneous,
feeding the
or not
beasties.
spontaneous wild beers though. And
Get some of that.
yeah,
It's going to be a little while because
it'll be a while, but we've been consistently working on that, and we're starting to amass a hefty amount of barrels to release upon the wild pretty soon, and we're really excited about that. It's something we never really had the room to do before, so exciting.
I wanted just to ask one more thing. I understand you guys are going to be making cans in the summer, and I've seen your artwork before. I know a lot of people that have been asking about it. Can you kind of give some brief description of what people are going to be expecting soon?
Well, we're still trying to get the new space ready for canning. There's a few more things we need to install, some air systems, things like that. We've always used a mobile canning service. We'll probably continue to use the mobile canning service. We're also hoping to maybe get a little more capacity in there, which will help us can. We're not sure exactly what we'll be releasing or when. I expect we'll bring back some of the familiar names. I hope we're going to be able to produce a lot. I don't expect we're going to be producing quite the same can volume we used to, but the good news is it'll be more frequent and fresh. You just might have to come to us to get it. So, not to say some accounts won't be getting it, but I think it's going to be a bit maybe a little harder to track down, but way better quality. So
that's awesome, man. I know the buzz around Hop Dogma right now is booming. You guys are great.
Right on.
Everyone's loving you. Thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you.
taking out some time, sitting down with Brewers and Battlestar Galactica. I really appreciate it. We're just going to be hanging out and drinking some more beers. So
Good.
if you guys want to watch the full link to this video, it's going to be down in the description. And thanks for watching. This is Hop Dogma. I'll see you guys next episode.
You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips.